Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Khaldun Azari. I'm former president of this club, and I have the great honor to welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Gabrielius Landsbergis, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, who is visiting Japan currently. The visit comes as Japan and Lithuania are celebrating the 100th years of bilateral relations this year, and are looking forward to another 100 years of friendly relations. The visit comes also at a crucial time for Lithuania and Europe, following the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Bordering Latvia, Belarus, and the Kaliningrad region of Russian Federation, Lithuania was previously part of the Soviet Union. Lithuania condemned Russia and prioritized relations with European Union and Nato. And the government plans to move away from independence on Russian energy, according to some reports. Lithuania has been providing Ukraine with various humanitarian, medical, and military assistance, and also providing a lot of logistical help, and that was since the start of the Russian invasion. And we would like to welcome again Foreign Minister, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, Minister, on the impact of the war on your country and on future relations with Japan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It's a great honor to be here with you this morning. Let me share a couple of ideas, a couple of thoughts on the state of democracies in modern days. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, many of us in Europe and outside the continent believed that authoritarianism was to disappear completely, and that democracy has become the only possible modus vivendi, and that the history was indeed over. The time of self-confidence and expectations has passed. The truth is very simple. Today we have unprecedented war in Ukraine caused by Russia. Today we have China's non-democratic, aggressive political and economic activities on the global stage. Indeed, we are witnessing the huge damage to democracy's foundation and reputation all over the world. Moreover, not only authoritarian powers alive in the mentioned countries, but democratic breakdown and backsliding in some other Middle East, Asian, and Latin American states testify a possible period of global democratic recession. Today, the rise of populist, openly anti-democratic, but seemingly effective politicians is evident even in the world's most established democracies. Weakening of institutions, digital surveillance, financial crimes, lack of transnational solidarity put democracy constantly under pressure, necessitating the urgent need of action. For much of the 21st century's democracy's opponents have labored persistently to dismantle international order and the restraints it imposed on their ambitions. In such a context, can liberal democracy around the world survive? And what are the most pending issues to address in this regard? The displacement of global democratic norms by authoritarian powers and other anti-democratic actors can be reversed. And the answer is democratic unity, alliances, and efficient action. At the same time, we need to take courage in facing directly those who challenge the democracy. Lithuania has been experiencing a wide range of coercive measures by China, starting with unannounced economic blockade to political coercion and cultural boycott. Yet we remain firm in the face of pressure. Giving in would only validate coercive methods as a legitimate tool for achieving political gains. More engagement with democratic Taiwan is in our direct interest. Peaceful future for Taiwan is inseparable from the stability of the Indo-Pacific, and success of Taiwanese democracy is crucial for the broader battle between autocracy and democracy worldwide. In Russia's war against Ukraine, China has stood by Russia as its silent enabler. China shares Russia's view on European security, as it was declared in Russia-China joint statement that was announced on February 4th this year, including openly hostile stance to NATO. China fully supports Russia in her information war against Ukraine, continues to blame collective West for Russia's war. In the light of Russia's war in Ukraine, China and Russia declaration of their friendship without limits, China's Solomon Island Security Agreement is even more crucial for the like-minded partners to work together and in coordinated effort to try pooling support in the Indo-Pacific region in defense of rules-based world order and building the united response, as well as increasing resilience to both military, economic aggression of authoritarian regimes. The only way to stop China from aiding Russia is to make the costs of alignment with Moscow outweigh its possible strategic benefits. In this new situation, there is even greater need for stronger transatlantic unity to jointly oppose the revision of global and European security system and international rules, and to raise the costs for China for its further support to Russia. Even if it feels as if democracy is backsliding, it has to be reminded that the only true weakness of democracies is not working together in the times of peril. Standing alone, no country is large enough to withstand the autocratic pressure. But working together, like it was done in the case of supporting Ukraine, shows that the combined power of democracies has not been matched. That is comforting for us, that we should be worrying for aggressor's current and future, and it gives hope. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would like to open the floor to your questions and answers. Please, if you have a question, raise your hand and proceed to the front mic. I have also some questions online I received. We will, if nobody is here asking question, we will start with the online. All right. First question, Minister, from Andy Sharp. He's from Nikkei Asia. Is there a possibility that sometime in the near future that Lithuania could switch its diplomatic recognition from Beijing to Taipei? Reasons for saying yes or no, please. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think it merits explanation what has happened in Lithuania. Lithuania has allowed Taiwan to open a representative office in Lithuania under its name. But we insist that we did not infringe on one China policy. It is not a diplomatic representative office. The only difference is it's not Taipei, it's Taiwan. It was a request made to us by our friends in Taiwan, and we accepted that request. Any further deliberations currently are not under consideration within Lithuania or within Lithuanian government.
Right. It's another follow-up question. Even if Lithuania or other EU countries don't switch allegiance, how would you suggest that nations provide closer support to Taiwan?
I think that there are many ways how support can be shown, and Lithuania has chosen one path. I think what happened after China started these coercive measures is not only that Lithuania appeared on the map for many countries. It was found where Lithuania is, but also that Taiwan appeared on many of European countries' map. Probably we haven't had as much discussion about Taiwan and the issues that strategic issues that the island is facing before in European continent, in European Union, before Lithuania took the step. I think that this newfound understanding or refreshed understanding about the importance of Taiwan will reinforce Taiwan's position. Will help in the future, because now, not only for practical reasons that many countries depend on Taiwan as a trade partner, but also because of the political reasons that we're starting to understand the situation that Taiwan finds itself in, the importance of Taiwan in the security architecture of the Indo-Pacific, and the need to find an attitude, a political attitude towards Taiwan's present and future.
Thank you, Minister. I would like to move to Japan. You are visiting Japan now, so what are the main resolution, or whom did you meet? What's the result so far of the visit? How long are you staying here? Thank you.
It's a very short visit, unfortunately, just a couple of days, but I think it comes at a very important time, not only because we're celebrating 100 years of our diplomatic relations, which is a very festive occasion for a visit, but also that there are many strategic things that we've been discussing. First of all, it's Russia's attack on Ukraine. Japan took a very principled step on its own and also as a part of the G7 group, made very strong statements condemning Russia, also took steps in support of Ukraine. So part of our discussion here throughout the last few days was about what is the path forward. What do we consider Ukraine's victory, and what would we consider Russia's defeat? The second topic that we've discussed was the one that was covered, Lithuania's issues with China, our position towards Taiwan. What can be done? How can we better resist the economic coercion from China? And also, what is the lessons that are learned from the coercion itself and from the possibility to withstand the coercion? Because it also merits to be saying that there are two parts in this. One is when you receive the pressure, but also the second is how can you better withstand, and what makes you less fragile for certain events on specific and similar events in the future.
Thank you. I have a question from Ilgen Yılmaz. She's a member of the board, and she asked Minister, after ordinary Lithuanians raised $5 million for Bayraktar combat drone, Turkey, Bayraktar, sorry. Turkey has gifted one to Lithuania to be handed over to Ukraine along with the money raised. What was the reaction of Lithuanian public for that?
I think that it was a very nice gesture from the company's perspective. It was very well accepted in Lithuania, especially in the time when there are discussions in many capitals whether the support to Ukraine has to be continued. Lithuanians showed, and we were expecting to raise the money in 3 weeks. It happened in 3 days. So Lithuanian people showed that they're ready, willing, and able to support with the abilities that they have, the possibilities that they have to support Ukraine's effort to win the war against Russia. And I'm very happy that the Turkish company that produces the drones join in the effort, donating the drone, and also providing that the money could be used for humanitarian assistance.
Another question from Ilgen, who is also correspondent for BBC Turkish. She says, what is your government's stance on Turkey's rejection of Sweden and Finland's membership to NATO? And how would your government respond if NATO goes ahead to vote Swedish and Finnish membership? Thank you.
Honestly, I can say that we're worried that we are stumbling while making such an important step as accepting 2 very important new members, such as Sweden and Finland. Their acceptance is very important to the Baltic region security, to security of Lithuania. When it comes to better defending the region, which is facing very close proximity to the war and to Russian troop presence. I'm still hoping that the solutions will be found, diplomatic solutions will be found, the veto would be removed. Because if not, I'm afraid that it would set a worrying precedent that one of the most important alliances, security alliances globally, is unable to make this serious strategic steps, because we cannot find an agreement between the allies. And that raises questions, how like-minded, it would raise a question, how like-minded we are within the alliance. So hopefully before Madrid summit, we still have three weeks left, we'll be able to solve this, and we'll see Finland and Sweden joining.
Thank you. I have online questions from Andrew Horvath. He's former president. Russia has accused Ukraine of mistreating members of Ukraine's Russian-speaking community, especially with regard to language rights. How are members of Lithuanian government or how are members of Lithuania's Russian-speaking minority treated in Lithuania? Are they able to receive Lithuanian citizenship easily? In your view, is Lithuania a country where Russian speakers can feel at home, secure that they are in a country willing to accept them as citizens with equal rights? Thank you.
Well, all rights of Lithuanian minorities that are in Lithuania, be it Russian, be it Polish or otherwise, are fully respected. They're able to receive their citizenship, education in their own language. But the worry is that even though they are respected, we constantly hear from Moscow's propaganda channels that they could use any opportunity to save the minority from the government, even with military means. And I think this is what happened in Ukraine. But when you see what is left after Russian occupation, completely destroyed cities, civilian victims, not to mention people who are left alive but traumatized for the rest of your lives, and I'm talking about even very small children, probably this is what Russian saving of the minorities looks like. And I truly hope that no other country will be ever denazified in the way that Ukraine currently is going through. And I'm saying that obviously ironically.
Thank you. Any question from the floor? Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm from Sankei Shimbun, and I want to ask.
Your name, please.
My name is Yasuto Tanaka from Sankei Shimbun. Your Excellency, could you elaborate how your country, how do your country resist coercion from the People's Republic of China after your country allowed Taiwan establish the representative office? Because Japanese company or the society always always care about the Chinese reaction, especially economically. And could you tell me why your country can resist from Chinese coercion? And do you have any suggestion or recommendation to our government or Japanese society? Thank you.
Well, it was a very elegant solution that was applied regards Lithuania. Lithuania was removed as a country from the customs system. So no company could register their shipment in the People's Republic of China because there was you cannot choose that it's coming from Lithuania. Lithuania ceased to exist when it comes to Chinese customs. So our exports to China dropped basically to zero. Actually, it's 0.3, so we're still scratching our heads. What is this 0.3? Who is able still to find ways to export? So this is what happened. On the other hand, our exports to Asian, Indo-Pacific even market has been growing substantially during the last year. Part of it is also sentimental. I know that I had meetings yesterday with some Japanese companies that are importing Lithuanian food products that were banned from China. And they've been growing. Their sales in Japan have been growing about 50% during the last year. I think it's due to the fact that people are actually looking for the products that are produced in Lithuania, such as beer and sweets and chocolate and things like that. So we're very much appreciative of that, because that helped us to alleviate the immediate impact a little bit. But then again, I mean, our trade with Japan has been growing about 10% this year. Our trade with South Korea, with Singapore, with Australia, many other countries within the broader region has been growing quite substantially. So we managed to switch from our trade ties with China and change and find new trade partners in the region. We paid the price. Obviously, it was not for free. We paid the price, but we found many new friends along the way. So that's one thing. The second thing, I mean, that Lithuania was not so much exposed to China. You know, our investment. I mean, we're very careful on who do we allow to invest in Lithuania. We have quite diverse set of trading partners globally. So losing one, even it is, as I've said, you know, it hurts, but it's not, you know, too damaging. The main lesson, what can be learned from this, is that China is more and more aggressively using trade as a political instrument to achieve its political tools. So that means that those countries who are dependent on supply chains, on you know, coming from China, investments that are made in the PRC, that they will be politically susceptible to coercion in the future. And now I think that it is advisable, especially to what we're seeing happening with Russia. You know, many countries have been building their dependence on Russian energy. And now when it comes a point where we have to make political decisions to decouple from Russia, it is a very difficult choice for many, many countries, especially in Europe, well, globally as well, right? So the similar things might happen in the future when it comes to China. We will be unable to make political decisions, or as to say that our political maneuver space will be very much limited, because we know what kind of instruments China has. So now the best way is to diversify where it is possible. But this is, I would say, probably one of the main topics that we've been discussing. Be it in Brussels, be it in Europe, be it in Washington, be it here in Tokyo. Everybody truly understands that. And Lithuania was a very, very small case, but very visible. It was very clear to see what happens, how does it look, and what can it mean, you know, for bigger countries when they would face similar things.
Thank you. Yes. Floor questions, you please, and you.
My name is Tomoko Igarashi from Mainichi newspaper company. Thank you for having us today. I would like to ask about energy import from Russia.
Yes.
If I understand correctly, your country stopped all energy import from Russia.
Yes.
So could you tell me how did you make it, and could you tell me basic reasons for that? Thank you very much.
That's such a nice question that I can keep on talking about. We're truly proud of our achievement, truly, because it was a long time coming. To tell you the whole story, I can tell you that it started in 2008 when Lithuania was paying the highest price for our gas imports from Russia in Europe. There were no particular explanations given to us by Russian government or Gazprom why we're paying such price. We had a pipeline, and it was easy to deliver, but we still were paying the price. So the explanation was the only one, that it's political. That Russia has been using for decades energy as a political instrument to increase pressure on the governments, to change the political stance, to change political decisions, or even the foreign policy direction. So in 2008, the government made a decision to build an LNG terminal. It doesn't sound as much, very much, but for a small country, for a small economy, having a pipeline with Russia and building an independent LNG terminal, floating LNG terminal, it's a big decision. And we're still, we finished the terminal in 2014. It's called Independence. I love the name, because it actually is that. And since then, we're paying a median price, because we're able to import LNG in the market prices, from wherever we want. So our main partners could be Norway, Qatar, United States, and it happened. So this was the baseline. How did we prepare to the situation where we are currently? The second phase started when the first reports about the possibility of upcoming war appeared late last year. So the government made a decision, just in case the war starts and there would be disruptions in energy supply, to pre-purchase gas shipments just in case the country would need them. When the war started, and we had already the possibility, we canceled Russian contracts because we had about 30% in our portfolio, gas portfolio, for 30% was Russian gas contracts. We canceled those, substituted them with what we had pre-purchased, and we're now completely Russian gas free. We were the first country to do that, but we have been preparing for a very long time for that. The oil is a bit different story, because Lithuanian oil refinery is owned by a Polish company. It's a government-owned Polish company, PKN Orlen, and it was a Polish government decision to change that in Poland, but it also applied to Lithuania. So for oil, it was different. But 2 weeks ago, Lithuanian government made one more decision to cancel all electricity purchases from Russia, because we have sufficient possibilities to purchase that from our European partners. But we are now looking for ways how to increase our LNG capacity, because when it was built in 2014, it was built just for our consumption, well, just for Lithuanian needs. Now we're a major provider in the region. We're providing to our northern and now even southern neighbors, because we've just opened a pipeline that connects us to Poland, but also to Ukraine. And this is also one of the discussions that we had here in Japan, about, because this is a potential area for partnership between Lithuanian and Japanese companies to expand our capacity in order to provide more LNG to the region. And secondly, we're also building we're participating in the green transition. We're building an offshore wind farms. And this is also, that could be interesting for Japanese companies to look into, because that's a very big project.
Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Mami Hamaguchi from the Yomiuri Shimbun. It's a newspaper company. And I want to ask, in terms of the NATO, what do you think, how to make with the Turkey? Please.
Could you repeat the question?
Because the Turkey is against the application of Finland and Sweden to NATO. So what do you think, how to make out with Turkey? So
I partially answered the question before. So very briefly, I still hope that the diplomatic solution will be found, because it's in the interest of all the participating parties. It's in the interest of the region, Baltic region. We are very much interested that decision is found. NATO is very much interested that the decision is found as an organization because it's about its credibility and possibility to react to crises. That's one way, how do you react to crisis? I think that it's in the interest of Turkey, to maintain trust. I mean, that the allies would trust Turkey. And it's obviously in the interest of Finland and Sweden. So I'm still hopeful that the decision could be found and could be found fast, because time is also of the essence. You could be debating for several years, but I don't think that this is the path that we would need to, it would be very helpful to take.
Thank you. I have actually a question online from Mr. Kazuo Nagata. He's a Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper, the biggest newspaper in Japan. He's asking about the same issue, Turkey and NATO and Sweden and Finland. So I will just summarize what he, in the end, concludes. About 32 countries are becoming a member of NATO soon. This may not, they may not always share the same concern as the Baltic states. So his question is, how about the future of unity among NATO countries in general? Thank you.
Well, so far we've managed to have a very united approach when it came to NATO's reactions toward what is happening in the transatlantic area. Yes, the fifth article was used only once, but the unity was maintained then, and we were always hopeful that this is the founding principle. This is a cornerstone. This is how the alliance was built, on trust that we are able to react to crisis. And it was working for half a century. Now we're facing a biggest crisis, I can say, after the Second World War. And it can bring back the purpose to transatlantic unity. It can provide example of how the security architecture is maintained and strengthened. Because I understand that countries in Indo-Pacific are watching how NATO is reacting and considering whether NATO is an efficient alliance. So it could be made stronger, but also obviously in the crisis when in a crisis we are all tested, and then NATO is tested as well. And if we make it stronger, then it's one path. If we don't make it, well, then it's a very sad path for all of us.
We still have time for questions on the floor. All right, let me improvise question. How did the war on Ukraine impact your country, Lithuania, in terms of like economy and tourism and social structure, everything? And do you feel that the future is promising or worrying? Thank you.
Well, first of all, the future is very promising, and we're still hopeful that Ukraine, not hopeful, we're convinced that Ukraine will win the war. Russia will lose. Russia will be weaker. I'm personally convinced that Russia will be, at the end, much, much weaker, and it's a path that President Putin has taken upon himself. I've called this a start of deputinization. That his attack on Ukraine actually is his start towards his regime's demise. It's inevitable. You cannot maintain an aggressive, well, even imperialistic regime for a very long time. It will have to crumble. And Ukrainians are making sure that it goes that way. The people in my country are definitely very worried. Definitely very worried. And it is probably few things, because first of all, geography. We know how the map works, and it's very, very close. Belarus, it's just outside, 30 kilometers away from the capital. So it's truly very close. But also that there is a lot of understanding, and we call it, we have a heart for Ukraine, because we remember, even I remember Soviet tanks in Lithuania, Soviet troops in Lithuania. So for us, it's a very vivid memory. It's not something of history books. Similar events have taken place in the Baltics. So the worry is real. Apart from that, on the practical standpoint, the only worries that, practical worries are the same that everywhere. We have inflation because of increased energy prices, because of the growing food crisis, because of a Russian blockade in the Black Sea. That is a big problem. But on the other hand, our economy is doing quite well. Now, our exports, I've mentioned to you, have been growing very rapidly. Some of it due to the rising commodity prices and just the same inflation, but also due to increased trade. That we find new trade partners. So at this point, I hope that the inflation will stabilize, and we'll find a ways how to get the food out of Ukraine. That would stabilize the food prices. We will readjust the energy supply chains. That will stabilize the energy prices globally. It might take some time. It might take this year, but I'm hopeful that next year we will be on a better path.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question also on Turkey by Elgin Yormalt. She just wants to know more about your country's position regarding the membership of NATO of Sweden and Finland. She says two countries should stop harboring groups supplying aid to PKK militant group and the Syrian Kurdish WPG, which Turkey also views as a terrorist group closely tied to PKK. How will your government respond if NATO goes ahead and vote Swedish and Finnish membership again?
Look, the practical standpoint is that there is no NATO vote. The countries have to agree. It's a veto. So until the veto is lifted, nobody can be accepted. So we can have 29 votes for, Turkey against, and unfortunately, this is we cannot move forward. So I'll just say as much that Lithuania is not a participant of diplomatic negotiations between Ankara and Helsinki and Stockholm. I personally offered any support that could be given, as much as is needed. Now I don't think that it is needed, but we stand ready to assist if that would be the case. And I'm hopeful that understanding the importance of the question and importance of the timing, that the decision will be found quite soon.
All right, I have more questions. We still have some time, but not about Turkey this time. This is from Fred Varus. He's freelance. He said, do you think NATO's response has been too cautious? What more do you think they could have done?
NATO's response to attack?
Ukrainian situation. He didn't clarify, but...
Well, it was made clear that at the very beginning that the NATO as an alliance will not be participant in war. Probably the biggest worry why it happened was because the conflict would be easily escalated, and this was very clearly stated by the Russian authorities that they would not exclude using non-conventional weapons if this escalates. So obviously this puts constraints on one side, but on the other side it shows, again, I'm thinking about this war, about Russia's war in Ukraine, about a precursor for the future. So how does this conflict, how does this war is solved, other conflicts will be in the future as well. So now, countries that either have nuclear weapon or are willing to have the nuclear weapon, they're watching this also very closely. That it is possible to lock in the very strong, very powerful Western countries in place, not able to take the action because you're threatening with preemptive nuclear strike. And this is kind of, I would say that this is being read. So we have to keep this in mind. Not solution, at least not from my country, but I think that this is how it's being read. To add to that, NATO countries because it was mainly NATO countries that provided military assistance. That was a strong step. That was a very useful step. And actually, this was a step that allowed Ukraine to win the victories that it won so far. The only question remaining now is that we have to continue with that. We cannot stop. We cannot say that we won enough and now it's time to, for diplomacy, so to say. There is no diplomacy yet because Russians are shelling. Even the capital was shelled 2 days ago. Ukraine has to win this. Because if Ukraine is not allowed to win, or unable to win because not enough weapons have been provided, it is a dangerous new world that I've been talking in my introduction, that then everybody could be a next target, be it a small NATO country on the bordering Russia, it could be an island somewhere in Indo-Pacific. So,
thank you. I have another question online. It's from Japan Forward. There's no name. Recent discussions in the European Union regarding energy imports from Russia has triggered the latest debate on the difficulty in reaching consciousness in the EU bloc. What is the position of Lithuania on what needs to be done concretely in the EU to have a constructive discussion going forward? So, as you mentioned, if in the future China's role in the EU economy becomes a topic of discussion.
Mm-hmm. Well, truly, we are tested now, as I mentioned before. We are tested how much dependent are we, how much our dependence limits the possibility to make political decisions. And it is quite difficult. We've been discussing for more than a month and not being able to find a consensus, a solution for the sixth package that was supposed to include oil. Fortunately, we made the step. Truly, I'm thankful to the colleagues who were working tirelessly and the European Commission to find a solution, and the solution was found. It's not ideal. We would have wanted more, and we were always suggesting to have a more broader sanction package, but it is the best consensus that Europe was able to find. And it's not an easy. When I'm at the debate table, I'm not happy, but when outside of a table, we have to understand that it's 27 countries that have to agree. 27 countries have to agree on a same political attitude. And the countries are different and have different attitudes and different strategies. So, but it's a very clear example of what happens when the dependency is too large. But I can tell you that probably what was started, I don't think that it can be stopped. I think that EU will decouple from Russia when it comes to energy. It might take some time. It might take a few years, several years. It's difficult to tell, but Europe will be decoupling. Short to medium term, finding new partners for imports of oil and gas. Medium to long term, actually overhauling the whole energy strategy and transitioning to green energy and finding more stable energy sources and more reliable energy sources in mid to long term. So I think that we are at the wake of a fundamental change, because Europe is a continent of 450 million people that was so much dependent on Russia. So it's a very strong message to businesses worldwide, and also one of the discussion points here in Tokyo. You can imagine 450 million people just cutting the ties with the main energy provider, or one of the main energy providers. It's a fundamental change. It will change not just Europe, not just Russia. It will change the world. So I think that it's also, it could be frightening, how the world will look, but I'm convinced that it's an exciting change, because it will be a change for the better. And I hope that Japan companies can take part in this transition.
Thank you. Andy Sharp of Nikkei asking, are you planning to change your trip itinerary and go to Taiwan? There seems to be Slovak lawmakers are visiting President Tsai in Taipei today, so we'd like to join them on a surprise visit.
I haven't seen my family for a very long time, and I'm willing to go home.
Thank you very much. I will give a chance for a last question, please. Briefly, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hirona Oguma from Kyodo News, Japanese news agency. Regarding a big question, how to end the war in Ukraine, there is a division of idea among European countries. Countries, including France and Germany, suggest we have to end the war without any humiliation on Russia. On the other hand, countries like Baltic countries or Poland suggest we have to continue the war until the total defeat of Russia. What do you think about this big division in Europe? Thank you.
It's a very difficult division. I was hopeful that we won't come to this division, especially when the war started. We were so united. We managed to find the solutions on the sanctions, on support. You know, we showed that, and it was not just about Europe. You know, it's not easy to find a solution between the 27, but we managed to find the solutions in G7 and in 27. So I was a very broad, very strong democratic alliance that, you know, that showed unity. Now the divisions are unfortunate, I have to say. My standpoint is that this is Ukraine's war, and it has to be Ukraine's victory. It's not France's war, it's not Lithuanian war. I cannot tell what victory is for Ukraine. I can tell what is for Lithuania, but then I would have to be fighting there. I'm not. I'm paying the bill, you know, and a very small portion of it. Maybe some others, you know, United States, France, they're paying a larger bill, but it's still just money. They are paying for their lives, and they have to say what they want to achieve. And we have to be supportive of that, because they are our partners, they are our allies, they're defending a principle that is important here in Japan, is important in Lithuania, is important globally. The principle of sovereignty, the principle of territorial integrity, the principle that a country has a right to exist and not to fight for every inch of its territory, not to mourn the dead that were not supposed to be there, the dead children, dead parents and women and elderly. It's a principle that is close, you know, that we thought we took for granted, and it's no longer that. So I think that it's fair saying that, you know, for me, your victory is this. And talking about humiliation, Putin humiliated himself, miscalculating, thinking that he will take in 3 days. He's already, in that sense, he's already defeated. Russian army was supposed to be the most powerful army in the world. It's nothing. It's being devastated in the fields of Ukraine. So that's a humiliation. And I'm happy that nobody stopped that. World needed to see that. And it's a very, very important lesson to everybody who will try to do that the same. So now we need to make sure that Ukraine wins the war, Russia retreats back, and I'm hopeful that it will happen. But again, Ukraine has to say how they see this ending.
Thank you. I received an emergency question. Sorry. It's from Tom O'Sullivan. He's from Matthews. Could you please give us your comments on recent Russian activities in Kaliningrad? Are there any particular issues that concern Lithuania?
Kaliningrad, we have to understand that Kaliningrad is a small territory on the western part of Lithuania and northern part of Poland, which was, for the most of the time, was more of a military base than a civilian territory. It was very heavily militarized. To our knowledge, at times it used even to house a nuclear weapon. It's difficult to tell whether it's permanent or it's being brought in and back. So the whole concept is quite dangerous. Having in the middle of Europe a Russian military base with rockets, nuclear arms, and ships and planes and troops. We haven't witnessed any major activity as of recently, mainly because Russia is so busy in Ukraine. The military activity is there. But then again, it provides for the future if we were to deliberate the future. It is a dangerous point because geographically Lithuania is in between two aggressors, so to say. On one side is Russia, the territory of Russia, Kaliningrad. On the other side is Belarus, 700 kilometers from it. So we're squeezed. And that's why you would hear Lithuania asking for additional NATO support, additional NATO troops. And we're also, Madrid summit is the one that we've talked about about Finland and Sweden, where we're hoping to achieve commitment by our allies to provide more assistance to Lithuania because of this geographical fact.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you.
This wraps up our event today. I appreciate very much for coming to the club. I would like to extend to you honorary membership for 1 year in our club.
Thank you so much.
We hope you visit Japan again and visit us again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions.